A child is born into a world that does not sit still. It is February 1812 in the coastal town of Portsmouth, where ships crowd the harbour and the air is thick with salt, rope and constant movement. Sailors pass through narrow streets, uniforms blur together and everything feels temporary. Even comfort seems borrowed, as though it might be reclaimed at any moment. The household into which this child arrives lives under a constant unspoken strain. His father holds a clerk's position in the Navy Pay Office, respectable enough to quiet suspicion, yet never secure enough to ease the mind. Money enters the home in hopeful trickles and leaves it in careless floods. There is always talk of accounts, always the soft tension of bills left unpaid. The boy is named Charles Dickens. From his earliest years he grows accustomed to movement. The family shifts from place to place, from one set of rooms to another, just as he begins to feel settled. Streets change, schools change, promises are made and quietly broken. Stability is something other families seem to possess. For his own, it remains always just out of reach. He watches adults closely. He notices how laughter tightens when money is mentioned, how confidence can collapse into worry without warning. Even moments of happiness carry a sense of waiting, as though something unseen is approaching, and it will not be kind. Books become refuge. In their pages, the world obeys rules that real life ignores. Kindness matters. Cruelty is exposed. Stories offer order where experience does not. Without knowing it, the boy is already learning how to observe, how to remember, how to store away details that will one day return, sharpened and transformed. Nothing about his childhood feels fixed. Everything feels provisional. The day his father is arrested does not announce itself with drama. There is no sudden noise, no clear beginning. It arrives quietly, almost politely, as catastrophe often does. John Dickens is taken away for debt and sent to Marshalsea Prison, a place designed not for criminals, but for the failed and the unlucky. For the boy, the meaning is immediate and devastating. Respectability collapses. Security disappears. Childhood ends without ceremony. He is 12 years old. The family bends under the weight of it. His mother and siblings move into the prison itself, living within its walls, adapting to a life shaped by confinement and compromise. The boy does not go with them. Instead, he is sent to work. Each morning, he walks through London alone, his small figure absorbed by the city's noise and indifference. The streets are loud, filthy, unmoved by private sorrow. He reaches a blacking factory near the river, a place heavy with the smell of damp, decay and chemicals. His task is simple and degrading, pasting labels onto bottles hour after hour, day after day. This is not work that teaches a skill. It teaches endurance. Around him are other children, already worn down, already silent. No one asks questions. No one offers comfort. This is how the city functions. If you fall, it steps around you and continues on. What cuts deepest is not the labour itself, but the secrecy. He tells almost no one. Shame settles over the experience and is carried inward, where it will remain for years. Later in life, even when fame grants him a public voice, he will speak of this period rarely, and never without pain. Here, in the factory, he learns something he will never forget: how easily society abandons the vulnerable, and how cruelty becomes ordinary when it is routine. At night he returns to lodgings that do not feel like home. He reads when he can. He remembers stories. He survives. The boy who endures this, overlooked, overworked, quietly wounded, is already becoming the man who will write of lost children, broken families, and a society that congratulates itself while leaving the weak behind. The wound does not heal, it deepens, and it will shape everything that follows. London does not welcome him, it absorbs him. He moves through its streets as a small figure among thousands, yet the city seems to notice him all the same. It tests him with noise first. carts rattling over stone, iron striking iron, voices raised in anger, bargaining, laughter. Sound arrives before meaning. Smells follow close behind. Coal smoke, damp wool, rotting refuse, the river breathing heavily at low tide. London teaches without kindness. It shows him wealth pressed hard against poverty, fine houses sharing walls with desperation. A single street can carry comfort at one end and hunger at the other, and the city makes no effort to hide the contrast. It simply allows it to exist. He walks, always walking, from the factory to his lodgings, from lodgings to dimly lit libraries, from one errand to another. Walking becomes habit, then refuge. With each step the city offers instruction. Faces pass, hurried, hopeful, defeated, alert. He learns to read them quickly. London rewards attention and punishes carelessness. The city does not explain itself. It expects to be understood. In its courts and alleys, he sees children his own age already hardened, already old. He sees men broken by a drink and women worn thin by work and worry. He also sees moments of sudden kindness, a word offered, a gesture made, fleeting but real. London contains cruelty and compassion in equal measure and never pretends otherwise. At night, when rooms fall quiet, the city does not sleep. It murmurs, wagons roll in the distance, voices drift through thin walls. Somewhere, someone is always awake, always struggling. The city reminds him that his own suffering is not unique, and that knowledge both comforts and frightens him. Slowly, almost without noticing, he begins to collect it all. Details settle into him. The way light falls differently in narrow streets, how laughter sounds forced when money is short, how authority carries itself. He stores gestures, expressions, turns of phrase. London becomes a vast living book, and he is learning how to read it. The city, in turn, shapes him. It teaches him speed, how to move quickly when necessary, how to vanish into crowds. It teaches him restraint, when to speak and when silence is safer. It teaches him memory, because forgetting here means repeating mistakes. London does not offer him comfort, it offers him material, and without realising it, he is no longer just surviving the city, he is studying it. One day he will give it back its own reflection, crowded, unfair, funny, brutal, alive. But for now, he walks, watches and learns, while London watches him in return, measuring what it has made. London grows bolder with him now. It no longer merely displays itself, it performs. It parades its extremes as though daring him to look away. In the narrow lanes off the Strand, the city leans in close, whispering its secrets through cracked doors and open windows. In Holborn, clerks hurry past beggars without breaking stride, their faces fixed forward, as though speed alone might keep guilt at bay. The city seems to know he is watching. Along the river near Hungerford Stairs, the Thames exhales its sour breath, carrying refuse, memory, and the weight of everything London would rather forget. South of the water, in Borough and Southwark, labour begins before dawn and ends only when bodies can no longer obey. Here, life is not lived, it is spent. The city does not hide this from him. It shows it proudly. As he walks these streets, London seems almost to sneer. Go on then, it seems to say. You see it, you feel it, put it into words, if you dare. Writing begins as necessity, not ambition. It is something he does to keep moving forward, to place distance between himself and the factory floor. Words become protection. Each sentence is a step away from glue pots and bottle labels, away from the smell of chemicals and the memory of being small and unseen. He writes wherever he can, at desks borrowed and paid for by the hour, in cramped rooms where the light fades too quickly, on scraps of paper carried through the city like contraband, Observation turns into sentences, sentences into sketches, sketches into possibility. London continues to test him. In Covent Garden, he watches performers entertain crowds who will forget them by morning. In Clerkenwell, he passes prisons whose walls seem to press inward, heavy with untold stories. The city provokes him deliberately now. It shows him children who look too old for their years and adults who have never truly grown. It flaunts hypocrisy, parades injustice, and dares him to make sense of it. Write me honestly, the city seems to say, or look away and become like the rest. And he accepts the challenge. At first, the world of publishing does not rush to meet him. Editors are cautious creatures. They listen politely, skim pages quickly, and weigh promise against risk. Sketches of city life, brief, observant, quietly sharp, do not yet sound like certainty. Some manuscripts are declined. Others are returned with encouragement that costs nothing and commits to less. Still, the writing persists. Eventually, the work finds a door that opens. A small publishing house takes a chance on a collection of short pieces, observations of London life, written with wit, sympathy, and an eye sharpened by experience. The book appears under a modest name, Sketches by Boz. It does not arrive with fanfare, but it is noticed. Readers recognise something in it. They recognise the city they live in. Not polished, not flattered, but alive. The characters feel familiar. The streets feel real. Word spreads, not loudly at first, but steadily. The sketches circulate, conversations begin, a voice is forming, and people are listening. Soon after, a bolder opportunity presents itself. A publisher named Chapman and Hall agrees to release a new work in monthly parts, an experiment lightly regarded at first. The story is humorous, episodic, unassuming. It is called The Pickwick Papers, and expectations are modest. Then something unexpected happens. People begin to wait for it. Each new instalment is read, shared, discussed. Characters become companions. Their habits are recognised, their phrases repeated. Households begin to mark time by publication dates. In shops, on street corners, in drawing rooms, and public houses, the same pages are being read. For the first time, a nation is reading together. The success grows quickly, then uncontrollably. Sales rise. Demand multiplies. What begins as a literary curiosity becomes a cultural event. The writer, once anonymous, becomes visible, then famous. Money follows. At first it brings relief. Debts are settled, bills are paid promptly, almost ceremoniously. He supports his parents, ensuring they are no longer threatened by the humiliations he remembers too well. The family he left behind, scattered, strained, marked by earlier failures, is gathered closer now, anchored by his success. Comfort replaces uncertainty, though never entirely. He marries, builds a household of his own, takes on responsibility with the seriousness of someone who knows how easily it can be lost. Children arrive. The home fills with noise, routine, expectation. On the surface, this is the life he once lacked. Stability, respect, position. Yet money does not loosen his grip on work. If anything, it tightens it. Success brings obligation. Readers expect more. Publishers wait eagerly. Serialization demands punctuality and momentum. Writing becomes public property, something anticipated and consumed in real time. He writes constantly, driven by discipline as much as inspiration. Still, there is satisfaction in it. Each published page is proof that the city did not defeat him. Each check is evidence that words, carefully chosen, honestly observed, can change a life. He has crossed an invisible boundary, leaving survival behind and entering something rarer, influence. And all the while, London watches. The city that once tested him now circulates his work through its veins. It reads itself on the page and recognizes the likeness. The city recognizes itself in his words and remains exactly as it is, and challenges him to see how much more he will dare to reveal. Success does not bring him peace. It sharpens his fear. The applause is loud now, the praise generous, the demand relentless, yet beneath it all runs a quieter thought, persistent and corrosive. This can be taken away. He has seen comfort vanish before. He has watched respectability collapse overnight. Memory does not allow him to believe in permanence. Fame accelerates everything. Publishers want certainty. Deadlines multiply. Serial installments must arrive on time, without excuse, without pause. Readers wait, not patiently but expectantly. He feels their attention like a physical weight, pressing forward, urging him on. He responds the only way he knows how, by working harder. Writing becomes constant. Days blur into pages, pages into proofs, proofs into contracts. There is always another project, another obligation, another promise to fulfill. Stopping feels dangerous. Slowing down feels reckless. He supports not only his immediate family, but the wider circle that once depended on him when he was a boy. This is not generosity alone. It is insurance. He remembers Marshalsea. He remembers the factory. He remembers how quickly the ground can give way. Wealth is not indulgence to him. It is defence. Every pound saved, every contract secured is another step away from the edge he once stood on. Yet the fear does not lessen. Instead, it drives him forward. He writes faster, tours harder, accepts engagements he does not need, and schedules he cannot sustain. Public readings turn into performances of endurance. The crowds grow larger, their admiration more intense, and the physical cost more severe. At home, responsibility presses in from all sides. A wife, children, expectations of constancy and presence. He provides stability, yet rarely rests within it. Even domestic calm feels provisional, as though it could fracture without warning. The contradiction deepens. He is celebrated everywhere, yet internally braced for collapse. Each success raises the stakes. Each achievement becomes something that must be defended. Security, he learns, is not a destination. It is a pursuit, relentless, exhausting, and never complete. And so he continues, driven less by ambition than by memory, less by desire than by fear. The boy who once pasted labels in a factory still sets the pace, reminding the man that stopping is not an option. Not yet. The idea does not arrive gently. It comes as pressure, moral, emotional, physical, building until it demands release. He is tired in a way that rest does not cure. Successful, yet perpetually strained. Wealthy, yet still calculating, still guarding against the collapse he half expects. England is prosperous and visibly cruel. Factories hum, fortunes grow, children work. The poor are blamed for their poverty and instructed to endure it quietly. He sees the contradiction everywhere. In Parliament, in the streets, in the casual indifference of comfort to suffering. The anger that has lived in him since childhood resurfaces, sharpened now by influence. And then the spark catches. It is Christmas, or nearly so, a season already heavy with memory, ritual and expectation. He seizes it, not as decoration, but as weapon. What better moment to confront a society congratulating itself on generosity, while refusing to practice it? Once the idea forms, it refuses delay. He withdraws from the world and writes with a speed that borders on obsession. 6 weeks, that is all. 6 weeks in which the days narrow to pages and nights stretch into long walks through London, his mind racing faster than his body can follow. He writes as though pursued. Scenes appear fully formed. Characters speak with alarming clarity. Scrooge emerges not as a villain, but as a warning, a man shaped by fear, hardened by memory, and insulated by wealth. The ghosts are not fantasy so much as moral instruments, forcing recognition where comfort has allowed avoidance. He funds the book himself. Publishers hesitate at the cost, the risk, the extravagance of presentation. He refuses to compromise. The book must look right, feel right, arrive as something meant to be held, not merely read. Profit is not the point. Impact is. The strain is enormous. Physically, he is close to collapse. Emotionally, he is raw. He laughs, weeps, argues with his own pages. The work consumes him entirely. This is not a calculated project. It is an eruption. When A Christmas Carol is released, it does not behave like an ordinary book. It moves fast, faster than expectation, faster than control. Readers do not simply read it. They respond to it. They share it. They read it aloud. They adapt it for the stage almost immediately. Its language enters conversation. Its moral urgency strikes something long dormant. Charity increases. Public discussions shift. The story reshapes Christmas itself, not as indulgence but as responsibility. Redemption becomes public, not private. The world catches fire. Ironically, the book brings him less money than expected. The costs are high, the profits modest. Yet its true value is something else entirely. It makes him indispensable. From this moment on, he is no longer merely a popular writer. He is a moral voice, an authority, a presence. The fear that once drove him towards security now propels him into something riskier, relevance. And there is no going back. After A Christmas Carol, the world does not merely read him, it gathers. The book unlocks something, not just admiration, but appetite. Readers want the man himself, his voice, his presence, his words delivered aloud, shaped by breath and gesture. And he gives them what they ask for. Public readings begin something modest, almost incidental. They become events. Halls fill, crowds queue for hours. Silence settles as he steps forward, manuscript in hand, and begins. He does not read so much as perform. Voices change. Characters live again. Laughter breaks out. Tears follow. People leave altered, shaken, grateful. The applause is thunderous, and he answers it by doing more. Tours stretch across Britain, then across the Atlantic. America receives him not as a visiting writer, but as a phenomenon. Newspapers follow his movements. Tickets sell instantly. Wealth accumulates at last. A barricade against memory, against the boy who once worked for survival and learned how quickly dignity could be stripped away. Yet the pace is punishing. Reading night after night, travelling endlessly, giving himself over completely to audiences who want everything he has and more. His health begins to falter. The body, long ignored, demands attention. There are warnings. Exhaustion, illness, collapse. Doctors advise rest. Friends urge restraint. He does not listen. Stopping still feels dangerous. Silence feels like retreat. He knows too well what happens when the work ends. So he presses on. The years advance. The writing continues. The performances grow more demanding. His private life fractures under strain. Long absences, emotional distance, choices that bring comfort to some and pain to others. The public man remains admired. The private one grows increasingly worn. By the late 1860s, the cost is undeniable. His health is failing, strokes weaken him, energy drains away in increments he cannot ignore. Still, he persists, pushing himself across one final tour, one final round of readings, as though the act of stopping might itself be fatal. In 1870, at his home in Kent, the body finally refuses to continue. He dies suddenly, surrounded not by crowds, but by quiet. He is 58 years old. The nation reacts as though it has lost something personal. Mourning is immediate and widespread. Streets pause. Newspapers fill with remembrance. Though he wished for a simple burial, he is laid to rest in Westminster Abbey, among kings and poets, claimed by a country that believes, rightly, that he belongs to it. Yet the truest legacy is not marble or ceremony. It is recurrence. Every December, his words return. A Christmas carol is read again, staged again, retold again. New generations meet Scrooge, recognise him, argue with him, redeem him. The story refuses to age. It survives not because it is comforting, but because it is demanding. It insists on empathy. It insists on responsibility. It insists that people can change and must. Charles Dickens does not invent Christmas, but he reshapes it. He gives it conscience. He ties generosity to action, celebration to duty, warmth to awareness. The boy, who once feared poverty more than anything else, leaves behind a world forever altered by a book written in 6 fevered weeks. A book born of anger, exhaustion, memory and hope. London remains vast, society remains flawed, inequality endures, but each year his voice returns to remind the world, quietly, firmly, that indifference is a choice, and so is kindness, and that perhaps is the greatest security he ever achieved.